Have you ever felt that your current isolation isn't just a lack of companionship, but an urgent call from your own soul that no one around you can understand? There's a silence that settles into the lives of certain women that seems too heavy to be a coincidence, acting as a portal to a transformation that most people fear to face. Often, what the world calls being alone is actually an advanced stage of a healing process that Carl Jung observed only in his deepest and most private sessions. This video was created for you, who feels that your social circle has drastically decreased after a toxic experience or the closure of an intense and very confusing emotional cycle. Female solitude has layers of awareness that conventional psychology often ignores, but which are fundamental for those seeking the total reconstruction of their self-worth. Let's delve into what happens behind the scenes of your psyche when the external noise ceases and you are forced to confront your own silent and sovereign strength. Jung understood that the journey towards the self invariably requires a period of detachment from the collective, so that the projections of others cease to shape our vision of ourselves. This dark side of solitude is not malevolent, but rather an unknown territory where the masks we wear to be accepted begin to melt under the heat of our truth. For a woman who has gone through a draining relationship, the silence of the phone can be terrifying at first, as she has been taught to seek validation through the gaze of others. However, it is in this social vacuum that intuition begins to whisper truths that were previously stifled by patterns of constant and subtle emotional control and manipulation. The universe clears your life's landscape so that you can finally identify which voices in your mind are your own and which were planted by painful experiences. This is the beginning of a spiritual maturation that few people have the courage to sustain until the end, but which holds your ultimate liberation. Deep psychology suggests that a solitary woman is often in a phase of sacred incubation, where her vital energy is being conserved for an unprecedented reconstruction in her life. When we stop expending our strength trying to save connections that drain us, this energy returns to our center, strengthening our clarity and our perception of reality. Jung noted that the most powerful women in history went through emotional deserts, where they learned not to fear their own company and to honor their non-negotiable boundaries. If you feel strange in the environment you once frequented, know that this is a clear sign that your vibration no longer resonates with the superficiality of the past. Solitude becomes dark only for those who are still running away from themselves, but for the conscious woman, it is the fertile ground where self-respect takes deep root. Each day of solitude is an investment in your new identity, allowing emotional wounds to heal without the interference of new, exhausting, or confusing influences. There is a vast difference between isolation that makes you ill and solitude that heals, and the secret lies in how you interpret this silence that now inhabits your days. Jung explained that the feminine soul has an intrinsic connection with the rhythms of nature, which also requires periods of retreat so that life can flourish strongly. The dark side of female solitude is, in fact, the confrontation with our own wild and authentic face, the one that no longer accepts crumbs of affection or disrespect. By being alone, you interrupt the cycle of seeking outside what the universe is trying to give you through introspection and the encounter with your spiritual self. Often, people distance themselves from you because they can no longer manipulate someone who has learned to enjoy their own presence and inner peace. Feel the dignity that exists in this process, because you are being prepared for a level of consciousness that few women dare to reach in this existence. This stage of life invites you to look at your deepest fears of rejection and abandonment, transforming them into pillars of emotional security that no one can shake. The aspect Jung rarely discussed publicly is that solitude is the natural filter destiny uses to remove from your life those who don't possess the same level of character. When you stop vibrating with neediness, you cease to be a magnet for controlling patterns and become a beacon for truth and self-respect. The reconstruction of the soul requires this time of retreat, where clarity replaces confusion and peace replaces the anxiety of trying to fit into small molds. You're not being punished by the universe, but rather protected from connections that wouldn't match the greatness of what is being gestated within your heart. Accept this call to depth, because the end result will be a woman so whole that her mere presence will be able to bring order to any environment. Recognizing your own worth is the fuel needed to traverse the desert of transition with elegance and inner strength in every step you take. Throughout this silent journey, you will realize that not everyone will be able to keep up with your new pace of growth and your new sovereign stance in social life. It's natural for your social circle to shrink so that the quality of your interactions becomes the main focus of your renewed and much more conscious existence. If you feel this content is illuminating your path and bringing the clarity you've been seeking, subscribe to the channel now. By joining this community, you strengthen your commitment to reconstruction and connect with a network of constant and safe healing and awakening. Your subscription is an act of self-respect, ensuring you continue to receive the insights needed to sustain your most powerful and vibrant phase. In Carl Jung's psychology, the shadow is everything we ignore within ourselves. But in female solitude, the shadow also includes our neglected power and divine strength. Many women spend their entire lives serving the desires of others, and, when they find themselves alone, feel an emptiness that is nothing more than longing for themselves. This period of social distancing is the perfect opportunity for you to resume your hobbies, your dreams, and your connection with what truly makes you vibrate. The dark side that frightens you is merely the intensity of your own light, hidden behind years of conformity and fear of displeasing others. By embracing solitude, you discover that you are fully capable of sustaining yourself emotionally and that your happiness does not depend on constant external validation. This is true maturity, where you become the master of your own narrative and the guardian of your precious vital energy. Solitude teaches you to distinguish the voice of your soul from the voice of fear, allowing your decisions to be made from a center of peace, not urgency. Jung noted that individuation, the process of becoming who you truly are, rarely happens amidst the crowd and the noise of others' opinions and criticism. By reducing the volume of external conversations, you begin to hear the wisdom of your dreams and the guidance your body sends through intuition. Rebuilding your identity requires you to clear the ground of all the toxic influences that once made you doubt your own abilities and worth. This time of retreat is a gift from the universe so that you can recalibrate your inner compass and learn to navigate calmer and more respectful waters. Feel the strength that grows in your chest each time you choose your own company instead of environments that only diminish your brilliance. Many women fear that loneliness is a permanent state, but the truth is that it's a necessary season for your next harvest to be abundant and healthy. Carl Jung stated that we cannot change anything unless we accept it first, and accepting your solitude is the first step in transforming pain into power. The dark side here is simply the discomfort of releasing the anchors of the past that kept you tied to draining relationships and patterns of control. When you become comfortable with silence, you become dangerous to those who thrive on manipulating others' emotions through psychological pressure and neediness. You are developing a spiritual shield that will protect your future, ensuring that only high-frequency connections are allowed into your life. Solitude is your healing laboratory, where each reflection distances you further from the toxic experience and brings you closer to your total liberation. The clarity that emerges from conscious isolation is like a light illuminating the dark corners of your journey, revealing why certain situations have repeated themselves so many times. You begin to perceive the invisible threads of manipulation that previously went unnoticed, and this awareness is what ensures you will never be the same again. Jung believed that self-knowledge is the only real defense against unnecessary suffering and the emotional stagnation that plagues so many lives today. By facing your solitude with courage, you are disintegrating the complexes that made you seek love in places where there was only disrespect and lack of empathy. You are becoming the woman Jung would describe as integrated, someone who knows her shadow but chooses to live in the light of her own consciousness. Enjoy every minute of this rebirth, for it is the solid foundation upon which you will build a future of peace, joy, and true achievements. The dark side of female solitude often hides a sacred fury that arises when a woman realizes how much time she has spent negating herself for fear of abandonment. This energy, when channeled through depth psychology, becomes the engine of reconstruction, transforming passivity into a focused and well-defined force of action. Jung understood that repressed anger can become an ally if used to establish boundaries that protect our dignity and our sacred space. In solitude, you have the necessary space to process this feeling without being judged as aggressive or difficult by those who benefited from your silence. You are learning to use your power elegantly, converting the pain of the toxic experience into fuel for your maturation and your turning point. This is the moment when the victim dies so that the sovereign woman can finally be born and occupy her rightful place. Loneliness also reveals our relationship with the animus, the masculine principle of the soul, which gives us the structure and courage to act firmly in the world. When a woman is alone, she is forced to develop this inner strength, becoming her own protector and emotional provider in every possible and real way. Jung explained that the balance between feminine nurturing and masculine assertiveness is what generates a truly healthy psyche, immune to external manipulation. By dealing with daily challenges relying only on your own wisdom, you strengthen this emotional muscle that was previously atrophied by dependence on others. You discover that you possess a silent strength capable of solving problems, setting boundaries, and planning a bright future without needing anyone's approval. This discovery is the essence of awakening, forever changing how you see yourself in the mirror and how you position yourself in life. Often, female solitude is a necessary social fast to detoxify the mind from the critical voices we inherit from draining relationships and old patterns of control. Jung observed that we are influenced by the collective unconscious, which often pressures women to always be accompanied, even if the price is their peace. By breaking this paradigm, you are performing an act of spiritual rebellion that cleanses your energy field and paves the way for real healing. The dark side of this fast is confronting the anxiety of not having anyone to validate us, but the reward is the achievement of unwavering self-esteem. You learn to nourish your own soul with clarity, self-respect, and moments of beauty that don't need to be shared to have real value. This is the maturation that transforms pain into awareness, allowing you to walk with light and decisive steps towards your glorious rebirth. Jung believed that true feminine spirituality is born in the depths of silence, where a woman connects with the archetypes of wisdom and divine healing. Solitude is not a punishment, but an initiation that separates women who live on the surface from those who have decided to delve into the truth of their own existence. The little discussed aspect is that, in this isolation, you begin to attract synchronicities that confirm you're on the right path to your transformation. Books, messages, and new knowledge emerge as if the universe itself were conversing with you, guiding your reconstruction step by step and with much love. You are not helpless. You are being guided by forces that respect your courage to choose the path of truth above false social convenience. Feel the presence of this wisdom around you, remembering that each day of solitude is one more step towards your absolute freedom. Rebuilding your life after a period of emotional manipulation requires you to first rebuild your inner dialogue, replacing doubt with certainty about your worth. In profound solitude, you have the opportunity to rewrite your life's script, erasing the harsh words that were once used to try to define or diminish you. Jung emphasized that we are what we choose to become, not what circumstances have tried to make us over time and through pain. This is the moment to use your silent strength to project the woman you want to be. Conscious, confident, elegant, and completely at peace with your history. The dark side of the past serves only as the necessary contrast so that the brilliance of your rebirth can be seen by all who cross your path. You are becoming living proof that healing is possible and that solitude is the sacred portal to a life of clarity. The dark side of female loneliness also involves confronting the abandonment complex, a wound many carry from childhood that attracts controlling patterns. Jung taught that as long as we run from this fear, we will be controlled by it, accepting crumbs of affection just to avoid feeling the emptiness of temporary isolation. By facing loneliness head-on, you are draining the power of this complex, showing your psyche that you are capable of surviving and thriving alone. This experience is the ultimate cure, because you discover that the most painful abandonment is the one we commit against ourselves when we negate our truth for another. Now you are establishing a commitment of eternal fidelity to your own essence, which makes you immune to any future attempt at manipulation. You have learned that your own company is safe ground, and that self-respect is the wall that protects your secret garden of peace. In the depths of isolation, a woman begins to realize that her intuition is not just a hunch, but a biological and spiritual compass that never fails. Jung saw in feminine intuition a tool of sovereignty, capable of identifying a lack of empathy and patterns of control long before they manifest. The dark side of solitude is that it forces you to trust this internal radar without having anyone to confirm what you are feeling at the moment. However, this solitary trust is what gives you the necessary maturity to never again ignore the warning signs your body sends. You are becoming an expert in reading energies, learning to filter who deserves your time and who should be kept at a safe distance. This clarity is one of the greatest gains of reconstruction, ensuring that your next cycle is focused only on relationships that bring peace and mutual growth. Jung observed that the dark side of the psyche often holds talents and abilities that have been suppressed so that we could fit into social or family molds. In solitude, these talents begin to emerge, demanding space to manifest themselves through your new creativity and your new way of acting in the world. You may feel the urge to write, paint, undertake projects, or study profound subjects that previously seemed distant from your past reality of suffering and pain. This creative awakening is proof that your soul is healing and that life is beginning to pulsate in vibrant colors within you. Solitude offers the necessary silence for this new version of you to be nurtured without the criticism or judgment of those who prefer to see you small. Take advantage of this time to rediscover yourself, celebrating each small victory and each new clarity that emerges on the horizon of your renewed consciousness. Feminine solitude is also a time to heal the relationship with the archetypal mother, the force that teaches us to nurture and care for ourselves with affection. Jung explained that we often seek in others the comfort we haven't learned to give ourselves, generating an emotional dependence that attracts toxic and exhausting experiences. By being alone, you are invited to be your own inner mother, treating yourself with the kindness, patience, and respect you have always deserved. You learn to embrace yourself on difficult days and celebrate your rebirth on glorious days, without needing external applause to feel valuable. This profound self-respect changes your vibration, attracting in the future only people who also know the value of a soul that loves and cares for itself. You are establishing a new pattern of relationships where peace is the rule and manipulation no longer finds open doors to enter. The dark side of solitude is the deconstruction of the ego that depended on the attention of others to feel alive. But the rebirth that follows is the conquest of the true self. Jung emphasized that true happiness is born from inner harmony and not from external circumstances, however favorable they may seem in the eyes of the world. In solitude, you are building an inner temple of clarity, where your silent strength is the main divinity that guides all your thoughts. You no longer need noise to feel important, because your existence now has a sacred purpose of healing and continuous transformation. Each moment of stillness is an affirmation of your freedom, showing that you have broken the chains of the past and are now flying towards your destiny. The reconstruction of your life is a work of art that could only be painted with the colors of absolute truth and spiritual maturity. The dark side of female solitude hides the truth that a woman who learns to be alone becomes uncontrollable by any pattern of external manipulation. Jung realized that the fear of isolation is the greatest tool of control that draining relationships use to keep women trapped in cycles of disrespect. By overcoming this fear and discovering the peace that exists in solitude, you break the main shackle that kept you tied to toxic experiences of the past. Now, your no has an unshakable strength, because you know that the worst-case scenario, isolation, is in fact your sanctuary of healing. You no longer accept anything that disturbs the clarity you have achieved with so much effort and so many moments of deep and solitary reflection. This is the final maturation, where your freedom becomes your absolute priority and your non-negotiable limit in the face of any new social connection. In solitude, a woman begins to integrate her personal shadow, the parts of herself she hid in order to be loved, and discovers that they are the source of her authenticity. Jung taught that the wholeness of the soul is only achieved when we stop fighting against ourselves and begin to accept our complexity with respect. By being alone, you have the opportunity to converse with your pain, your repressed desires, and your strength that has been silenced for so long. This internal dialogue is what generates the reconstruction of your self-esteem, because you realize that you don't need to be perfect to be worthy of self-respect and peace. You are becoming a whole woman, someone who no longer fragments herself to fit into the life of anyone who doesn't know how to value her essence. The shadow side has become your ally, providing the wisdom necessary for you to discern who is real and who is just a fleeting projection. Jung believed that conscious isolation is the moment when a woman connects with the Great Mother, the universal energy that governs the cycles of rebirth. Solitude is not an emptiness of people, but a fullness of consciousness that allows you to see the hidden beauty in your own journey of overcoming. You begin to realize that each cycle's ending was a necessary pruning so that your soul could grow towards the light of truth. The dark side of past pain is now the fertilizer that nourishes the flowers of your present, bringing a fragrance of peace and clarity to all your days. You are developing a silent strength that doesn't need shouts to be heard, because your aura of security speaks for itself. This spiritual maturity is what makes you elegant, because true elegance is born from a soul that is in total harmony with its destiny. Rebuilding your mind in solitude involves clearing all the limiting beliefs implanted by painful experiences and subtle, cruel emotional manipulations. Jung observed that the unconscious tends to repeat patterns until we bring them to our consciousness, and solitude is the stage where that light is finally turned on. You are now able to identify the triggers that made you accept disrespect and neutralize them with the strength of your newfound clarity and constant self-respect. This cleansing process ensures that your future is different from your past, allowing you to write new chapters full of hope. You are becoming the guardian of your own mental garden, wisely choosing which seeds of thought are allowed to sprout and flourish in your consciousness. Each day of solitude is one more step away from toxic experiences and one more step into your empire of peace. The dark side that Jung never publicly explained is that female solitude is the natural state of a soul that has grown tired of lies and decided to live in truth. Many women who are considered lonely are, in fact, the most accompanied by their own essence and by the universal wisdom that governs great new beginnings. You have discovered that the quality of your life is proportional to your courage to be who you are, regardless of who is by your side at the moment. Solitude is not a lack of options, but a conscious choice of someone who has learned that peace is worth much more than the company of those who lack empathy. You are celebrating your rebirth with the dignity of someone who knows they have passed through the fire and emerged with a bright and purified soul. The reconstruction is complete at the foundations, and now you are free to build whatever you wish upon this solid base of clarity and self-respect. Jung understood that female solitude is the territory where a woman recovers her inner voice, the one silenced by years of concessions and unfounded fears. The dark side of this process is the initial discomfort of not having anyone to ask what to do, being forced to seek the answer in the silence of the heart. However, this autonomy is what generates true maturity, transforming dependence into a silent force of self-determination and total clarity. You discover that your own judgment is the only compass that truly matters to guide your reconstruction and your turning point in social life. By trusting yourself in solitude, you destroy the power of any external manipulation that tries to use doubt to control or diminish you. This is the awakening of your sovereignty, where you assume the throne of your own existence with elegance, respect, and a peace that no one can steal. In the depths of isolation, the woman begins to perceive the synchronicities that Jung studied so extensively. Events that confirm she is not walking alone in the universe. The dark side of past pain becomes merely the backdrop for these signs of light to shine more intensely in her daily and spiritual routine. You may find a song, a book, or a message that seems to have been written especially for your moment of healing and inner renewal. These meaningful coincidences are the universe's way of validating your courage to choose truth over false and exhausting social convenience. You are developing a spiritual sensitivity that allows you to navigate the endings of cycles with the certainty that something better is being prepared for you. Each sign is an embrace of consciousness, reminding you that your rebirth is a divine project that respects your time and your own worth. Jung emphasized that female solitude is the moment to integrate the collective shadow, the unrealistic expectations that society imposes on how a woman should behave. The dark side of this confrontation is the initial feeling of maladjustment, as if you no longer belong to a world that values appearances above true essence. However, this maladjustment is a clear sign that you are becoming a real individual, someone who no longer fragments herself to fit into small spaces. Solitude offers the necessary freedom for you to define your own standards of beauty, success, and happiness based on your peace and inner clarity. You are rebuilding yourself as a woman who doesn't need to compete or compare herself, because your only goal is the evolution of your own consciousness. This is the maturity that makes you unshakable, allowing you to walk with dignity on any path your soul decides to tread with faith. Loneliness is the laboratory where you test the resilience of your new boundaries, ensuring they are strong enough to protect your new life. Jung observed that boundaries are not stone walls, but energetic borders that define where you end and where the other begins in a relationship. In isolation, You learn to uphold your no without feeling guilty and to protect your sacred space without apologizing for prioritizing your peace. This self-respect is what prevents you from falling back into toxic experiences that seek to drain your vitality and your joy of living with integrity. The dark side of the past served to teach you the value of a locked door for those who lack empathy or respect for your healing process. Now, you are the guardian of your own light, wisely choosing who has the honor of sharing your moments of silence and reconstruction. Jung believed that female solitude is the gateway to encountering the cosmic self, the part of us connected to eternal and immutable wisdom. The less explained aspect is that, in this state of solitude, you cease to be a victim of time and become a creator of realities. The reconstruction of your life becomes an act of sacred art, where each choice is made with the awareness of someone who understands their role in the grand fabric of life. You are no longer adrift, but anchored in a silent force emanating from your own healed and fully mature soul. This is the rebirth that transforms solitude into a radiant fullness, capable of inspiring all who seek their own liberation and transformation. You are the living example that the shadow can be integrated and that the light of truth is the only one that truly remains and shines brightly. The dark side of female solitude hides the truth that a woman who learns to be alone becomes uncontrollable by any pattern of external manipulation today. Jung realized that the fear of isolation is the greatest tool of control that draining relationships use to keep women trapped in cycles of constant disrespect. By overcoming this fear and discovering the peace that exists in solitude, you break the main shackle that kept you tied to toxic experiences from a wounded past. Now, your no has an unshakable strength because you know that the worst-case scenario, isolation, is, in fact, your sanctuary of healing and peace. You no longer accept anything that disturbs the clarity you have achieved with so much effort and so many moments of deep and very solitary reflection. This is the final maturation, where your freedom becomes your absolute priority and your non-negotiable limit in the face of any new social connection. In solitude, a woman begins to integrate her personal shadow, the parts of herself she hid to be loved, and discovers that they are the source. Jung taught that the wholeness of the soul is only achieved when we stop fighting against ourselves and begin to accept our complexity with great respect. By being alone, you have the opportunity to converse with your pain, your repressed desires, and your silent strength. This internal dialogue is what generates the reconstruction of your self-esteem, because you realize that you don't need to be perfect to be worthy of self-respect and peace. You are becoming a whole woman, someone who no longer fragments herself to fit into the life of anyone who doesn't know how to value her essence. The shadow side has become your ally, providing the wisdom necessary for you to discern who is real and who is just a fleeting projection. Jung believed that conscious isolation is the moment when a woman connects with the Great Mother, the universal energy that governs the cycles of rebirth. Solitude is not an emptiness of people, but a fullness of consciousness that allows you to see the hidden beauty in your own journey of personal overcoming. You begin to realize that each cycle's ending was a necessary pruning so that your soul could grow towards the light of truth. The dark side of past pain is now the fertilizer that nourishes the flowers of your present, bringing a fragrance of peace and clarity. You are developing a silent strength that doesn't need shouts to be heard, because your aura of absolute security speaks for itself. This spiritual maturity is what makes you elegant, because true elegance is born from a soul that is in total harmony with its destiny. Rebuilding your mind in solitude involves clearing all the limiting beliefs implanted by painful experiences and subtle emotional manipulations. Jung observed that the unconscious tends to repeat patterns until we bring them to our consciousness. and solitude is the stage where this light is turned on. You are now able to identify the triggers that made you accept disrespect and neutralize them with the strength of your newfound clarity and self-respect. This cleansing process ensures that your future is different from your past, allowing you to write new chapters full of hope. You are becoming the guardian of your own mental garden, wisely choosing which seeds of thought are allowed to sprout and flourish in consciousness. Each day of solitude is one more step away from toxic experiences and one more step into your empire of peace. The dark side that Jung never publicly explained is that female solitude is the natural state of a soul that has grown tired of lies and decided to live. Many women who are considered lonely are in fact the most accompanied by their own essence and by the universal wisdom that governs great sacred new beginnings. You have discovered that the quality of your life is proportional to your courage to be who you are, regardless of who is by your side now. Solitude is not a lack of options, but a conscious choice of someone who has learned that peace is worth much more than toxic company. You are celebrating your rebirth with the dignity of someone who knows they have walked through the fire and emerged with a bright and pure soul. The reconstruction is complete at the foundations, and now you are free to build whatever you wish upon this solid base of clarity and self-respect. Solitude teaches you to deal with the fertile void, the space where new ideas and new silent strength begin to take shape within you. Jung explained that the ego fears nothingness, but the soul feeds on it to create new realities and to achieve transformations that seemed impossible before. The dark side of solitude is the moment when you stop running from your own immensity and accept that you are your own destiny. This maturation brings a peace that cannot be described, only felt in every conscious breath and in every choice to prioritize your dignity. You are rebuilding your world from a foundation of absolute clarity, where emotional manipulation no longer finds fertile ground to grow or thrive. This rebirth is your legacy to yourself, proof that light always triumphs over shadows when we decide to walk in absolute truth. Jung noted that female solitude is the moment when a woman becomes the alchemist of her own life, transmuting the lead of pain into gold. The dark side of exhausting experiences served as the crucible where her essence was purified of all the false beliefs and dependencies that limited her. By being alone, you take control of the flames of your own evolution, ensuring that your maturation is solid, elegant, and totally focused on peace. You no longer seek gold outside yourself because you have discovered that it shines intensely in the center of your own healed and highly conscious soul. This self-respect is what defines your new level of existence, allowing you to attract only what is noble, true, and respectful into your life. Your reconstruction is a silent success that reverberates in all areas of your journey, bringing a clarity that illuminates the path of others. Loneliness reveals that your greatest strength lies not in aggressive resistance, but in the ability to remain at peace, regardless of what happens around you. Jung saw in this serenity the ultimate sign of individuation, where the woman is no longer a plaything of others' emotions or patterns of social control. The dark side of the past was the teacher who taught you to value your silence and protect your vital energy with complete wisdom. You are now a woman of clear boundaries, whose presence communicates authority and respect without you needing to utter a single harsh or difficult word. This spiritual maturity is the foundation of your rebirth, ensuring that you will never again get lost in labyrinths of manipulation or emotional disrespect from others. You are in harmony with your destiny, celebrating the clarity that only courageous and conscious solitude can provide for the soul. Jung believed that female solitude is the state where a woman becomes indivisible, meaning she can no longer be fragmented to please anyone. The dark side of this process is the loss of people who preferred her previous version, the one that was easy to control and diminish emotionally. However, this loss is the greatest gain in her life, as it frees up the necessary space for her true self to take center stage. You are rebuilding yourself as a whole being, whose parts are in tune with absolute truth and with the purpose of healing and peace. This self-respect is what guarantees your integrity, allowing you to live with a clarity that is simultaneously gentle, elegant, and unwavering. Your rebirth is a hymn to freedom, showing that solitude is the sacred path for those who wish to live in the light of their own soul. Solitude teaches that true love begins with the relationship you maintain with yourself, nurturing your soul with respect, clarity, and moments of profound peace. Jung emphasized that our capacity to love another is limited by our capacity to love and accept ourselves in total solitude. The dark side of the emotional desert was the necessary purification phase for you to learn to value yourself above any social or romantic connection. Now, you are a woman of high vibration, whose boundaries protect your inner garden against any attempt at future invasion or emotional manipulation. Your reconstruction is proof that life always offers a glorious new beginning for those who have the courage to face the truth and mature. You now walk with the dignity of one who knows that she is loved by the universe itself and that her peace is her treasure. The complete reconstruction of your life happens the moment you decide that your silence is worth more than any conversation that doesn't bring peace. The dark side of female solitude was merely the bridge that led you from emotional confusion to the absolute clarity of your worth and purpose. Jung said that when we become conscious, we cease to be victims of fate and become the creators of our own story of overcoming. You are now the sovereign of your journey, guided by a silent force emanating from your integrated, healed soul, completely at peace with life. Feel the pride of having crossed your desert and found your own oasis of self-respect, elegance, and radiant spiritual maturity. This is the closing of a cycle of pain and the beginning of an era of light, where your freedom is your greatest and best achievement. If this content has brought new meaning to the phase you are going through and helped you see clarity in solitude, please subscribe. Your presence here helps strengthen this healing space and ensures that more women find the support they need to cross their deserts with courage. By subscribing to the channel, you declare that you are committed to your evolution and that you value content that respects your journey of transformation and eternal peace. We are here to walk together, transforming each challenge into a stepping stone towards a much higher, more elegant, and spiritually meaningful consciousness. Remember that each cycle has its time and that you are exactly where you need to be to flourish with great strength and total clarity. The maturity you seek is happening now, in every choice to prioritize your inner peace above any external noise or doubt. The spiritual meaning of becoming this woman lies in the ability to be a beacon of your own light in a world that prefers dependence. When you stop searching outside for what can only be found within, you reach a level of emotional sovereignty that is truly liberating and sacred. Carl Jung's path shows us that personality integration is an act of courage against a system that constantly tries to fragment us. Feel proud of the woman you are becoming, someone who does not fear silence and who respects her own sacred and non-negotiable boundaries today. The peace you feel today, even in solitude, is proof that your soul has finally found its way back home and to the light. This is the closing of a phase of pain and the beginning of an era of clarity, where your silent strength will guide your steps. The healing journey is ongoing, but the foundations you are laying now in solitude will support all your future victories and glories. You have learned that you don't need much to be happy, just truth, respect, and an honest connection with your own divine essence. This simplicity is the mark of evolved souls who have already understood that what is essential is invisible to the eyes and does not depend on applause or approval. Continue your journey with your head held high, knowing that your lack of company today is a sign of your greatness and your spiritual and human refinement. The world needs women like you, who have the courage to be who they are, regardless of whether they are accompanied or not on their path of light. Your light is needed, and your story of reconstruction will inspire many other souls to seek their own truth and their own radiant inner peace. Your transformation is a gift to the universe, and each step you take towards the light echoes like a symphony of healing and hope. Don't rush to the end, for beauty lies in every detail of this rebirth you are experiencing with such elegance and strength. The universe embraces you and recognizes you as a beloved daughter who had the courage to awaken to her true divine and powerful nature now. May the peace that surpasses all understanding guard your heart and your thoughts on your new journey of light, awareness, and self-respect. You are free, you are whole, and you are the very manifestation of Carl Jung's wisdom in action in the modern and very challenging world. Walk with faith, shine brightly, and know that you will never be alone again, for your soul is your best and greatest eternal companion.